So now, moving on to our second track, which is basically accelerate software development and testing, where we said, like, we will look at another example, how we can use solutions like CodeMate to augment the journey of developers while building the typical software development programs, right? So for this one, let's take the example of Alex, who has been tasked with integrating a new payment gateway, right? Which is basically required by the organization to enable their users to access modern and diverse payment system, right? In a traditional development way, Alex has to undertake, few of those critical activities to complete this task. He has to write code. He has to build and run the code. He has to write the unit test cases, prepare some synthetic test data for the testing, execute it. He has to do some code reviews and scan his code to make sure it's meeting all the enterprise standards, right? And then he want to actually integrate his solution with a payment gateway. It could be Stripe or PayPal, right? And then finally, when the solutions is ready, it can be basically he needs to create the open API specs to expose these services, right? Let's see how we can enhance Alex productivity again with CodeMate. Two different examples. Let's see how CodeMate can help both of our developers. Okay. So to start with, let's say, as we said, the first activity for Alex is to actually develop a program, right, for payment integration solutions. So how we can start with the natural language prompt, let's say, build a Java Spring Boot microservice for a payment integration solution, maybe with endpoints like initiate payment, check payment status, or refund payment in case of any failure, right? So we'll see how CodeMate can help, generate the basic framework and the, code for Alex to start with. And then, the idea is to enhance Alex productivity by making sure rather than he's focusing on doing the framework or the basic foundation work, he should primarily more focused on building complex business rules, workflows in the code. So you can see, with a simple natural language prompt, it basically helps us created a framework of a payment integration service using Java Spring Boot framework, right? So it creates the entity class that is required. It creates, my model data objects. It creates a repository. It creates a service class, which will have the implementation logic for all the methods that we talk about, like initiate payment, check payment status, right? Or refund payment if there is a failure, right? And these language models understand that, when we say refund payment in a failure, that means we are referring to some of sort of status which says like, the payment is not completed actually. And then, the controller, which would be the, which will have all the endpoints for all these different methods, like, initiates, check status, and a refund. And it understand that, when we are saying check status, that means it would be a get method, whereas the initiate or refund would be a post method. It also provides the configurations, like, which would be required for a backend. Created a testing class for me, which a developer can use for writing the unit test cases, right? So for this, for today's session, what I did is I actually copied over everything to the ID just to quickly show you how these things can be just copied over all the classes and the entities that have been created there. I just copied it over, right, to this ID. And when I build and run, it can actually quickly show me my Swagger specs for all those three methods, right? Again, it's a framework, no business logic implemented. And then there are two ways to implement a business logic. As a developer, Alex can go and write the code to implement those business logic, or he can even use CodeMate to enhance his service to implement those logics by providing the functional requirement for it. We'll look at few of those examples, how the framework that has been extended that have been created at the beginning, how it can be extended later on with some natural language prompts. But for now, let's see, we got those three methods, the service is up and running, we are all good. So, what next for Alex? He has to write the unit test cases as a developer, right? So let's use CodeMate to help us write some unit test cases. Okay. So build me unit test cases with code coverage more than 50%, right? So you can even tell it like, if when I want to build those unit test cases, this is my code coverage threshold. It can help you do that. It can ask you for some more follow-up questions that you can provide to help it. But yeah, let's see. So it says you did not provide code to write unit test case for, but in order to do that, but whatever that it has in its own context, right? The framework that have been created at the beginning, based on that, it actually is, if you look at it, it created some of those unit test cases, but CodeMate is not 100% sure whether that is enough for your 50%, right? So then that's why it says provide more updated code which you have with your business logic implemented, so that it can help you cover doing your code coverage. So you got your unit test cases for the initial framework. And as I said, it can be extended up to any level based on the follow-up prompts. Once you have this, you can just simply copy over your test cases, go to your IDE, run this test cases, and it can show you what's the test coverage, right, with this. So as I said, right, how CodeMate will keep the context and it can help you extend the service. Let's look at another example. Now, if I want to extend my service to have some specific business requirement. For this example, let's say I want to extend this service to integrate it with the payment gateway called Stripe. So I will say extend my service code to integrate it with Stripe payment gateway. So now CodeMate will understand that, this is your framework. You want to extend it to Stripe payment gateway. It can help you again, doing those stuff. So if you look at it, it provides you the recommendation and the things that you need to do. So in order to integrate it with Stripe, you need to make sure as a developer, you add the dependency in your POM XML, right? It basically, the service class that it has created at the beginning, now that payment service class has been extended to have the logic to integrate it with Stripe payment gateway. So, we can look at some of the typical things like, while doing that integration, you need a secret key. It takes care of that, right? And it has extended all my method to make sure now it is integrated with payment gateway. And it also provides you some important consideration, like, what could be the error handling framework that you can use? What should be the security, payment methods, webhooks, testing. And then, as I said, right, it's a contextual conversation. You can ask CodeMate to provide you more help, and it can certainly do that for you. So let's say, Alex is good with it. He has taken up all the CodeMate's help. He's done with his development, right? What's next for him? The next is to first generate the open API specs so that he can expose this service as an API, right? So in order to do that, again, let's use CodeMate help. I will say generate open API specs for this. Now CodeMate will extend your service to have open API specs so that, Alex need not to spend a lot of time doing all these foundational things, right? So it provides, based on the endpoints that have been developed in the service, it provides you the open API specs with some sort of description based on the understanding, right? And then finally, let's say Alex is done with everything. Now he wants to commit his code to do a review with his peer or his engineering leads, right? So for this one, I will show you how, if when Alex will commit his code to a source control repo, how the code review can be done. just to make sure we are on time, just to give you an example. So this is what to show you we have done with the same service. I have committed that code to our source control repo, and because my codemate was integrated into my CI/CD pipeline, it actually did a code review for me and provide me some recommendations. Let's look at it, right? Let's start with payment service. So it basically, CodeMate reviewed my code for the payment service. It gives me the recommendation in 5, 6 different categories: code quality and readability. It says good, but yes, there is an area of improvement. Logic and functionality, error handling and robustness. It says like, your error handling is poor. You need to improve on that. Your performance optimization, security, compliance with standards. This is where if you have some specific enterprise standards and the compliance, it makes sure that the code that you have committed meeting all those compliance and the standards, right? And then finally, your documentation and comments, whether it's fair, what can you do to improve your documentation and comments in the code. And the other advantage is it actually provides you the actionable insights, right? What you can actually do. You can improve your exception handling, how you can do that, validation. It gives you some of those examples, like, how you can improve operational efficiency, wherein, instead of using or else, you can use optional, right? Stuff like that. So this is how, CodeMate can actually help business as well as the technical teams within the organization on their software development journey, having enhanced business capabilities, generating deeper insights into the data that you already have, right? So there could be different use cases where we can use CodeMate to drive those business advantages. So going back to our deck, having said that, John, I would hand it over back to you. Maybe if you can talk about some of the framework and the solutions, how we approach with our customer in their AI journey.